We're just going to get it going.
All right.
Rachel Mefford, you super excited about this?
Very.
You tossed you a softball one there out of the gate. So I reached out a little while back, started the show, and you know we've known each other for a long time through my siblings and beyond. You're a solid 62040er to the core.
Absolutely. Former soccer player.
Soccer and steel, right?
You know it.
But the Facebook profile activity, you know, we've kind of been pinging for a number of years, actually. I think it's another one of those Trump byproducts, right? Kind of bringing that stuff front and center. And you seem to be, I wouldn't call you Switzerland because you have a little bit more of a sense of humor about it. You seem to be more of a, maybe like a strategic cynic. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. It's definitely, in my industry, I try to be Switzerland because I have clients on both sides of the fence. So if I lean one way or another, I lose business. So it is strategic cynicism to kind of mask what I really think.
So then, obviously, as an insurance agent, 100% of your job is client facing, right?
Correct.
And obviously, it's easy to sell to friends and family first, and then expand your circles from there. Mm-hmm. Since 2016, because how long have you been an agent?
I've been an agent since I finished grad school in 2003, actually.
Okay, so we're approaching...
Over 20 years.
We're 20 plus.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, in this post-Obama, post-Trump world, is it harder for you? Like if you're interested in politics, if you're interested in, you know, current events or an event or, you know, a story that has a blue or a red undertone to it, do you second guess yourself before engaging?
Absolutely. I would say that this last election, I tried very hard to not make political posts because my errors and omissions insurance and other forms of insurance that monitor me and what I say and do asked me to not.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So I am regulated.
From having an opinion?
From having an opinion.
Okay, so let me just ask your opinion. Do you think that is a good idea to regulate opinions?
No.
I knew the answer to that.
Yeah, obviously.
Why do you think they did it then? Or do it? Or maybe expanding it?
They want us to be seen as neutral professionals, that we could advise our clients regardless of our leanings politically. And a lot of insurance forums and groups, they don't even let us talk about our politics. So we're just definitely, it's driven into us to keep it out of our business and to almost keep it off of our profile and socials.
That seems so Big Brother to me. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, one of the reasons that I started the show was the intent to talk more, not less, right?
Right.
Or avoid memes or GIFs or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty efficient at that. I think you like the zingers. Do you use zingers just to kind of maybe stay off the radar but still stay engaged?
Absolutely. They're very passive aggressive, so to speak. You know, you're getting your point across without being blatant and obvious.
Yeah. Well, you also don't really get a conversation though.
No.
Who's the biggest troll? Can you name names? Because you got a lot of people that kind of pop on there, on and off.
No, and I kind of stay neutral, and I let them go and do their thing, because most of the time I'm on the phone and working.
I've got sucked into that a few times.
Yeah, I just let you guys go and do talk it out.
I do it for entertainment value, though.
Sometimes I do that as well. But I'm only passionate about certain things on there, which health insurance happens to be one of those things.
Well, that was the impetus. Because in the world of current events, I don't think there's been in my opinion, a bigger story than
right.
our boy Luigi.
Right.
Or not our boy,
I wouldn't say
the populist boy Luigi, and the obviously the Brian Thompson, or no, what was his last name? Yeah, that sounds right. What United Healthcare CEO shot dead by Luigi Mangione.
right.
Long story short, in his pseudo manifesto, if you believe it or what's been taken out of it, he basically was like, "Power to the people. Screw these guys. They're taking money. I'm going to kill him," which was, a whole bunch to unpack. But I want to start to kind of unpack it. And I thought that you, given your kind of Swiss approach to socials and your day job in the healthcare industry, who better to break down Luigi's motives, right or wrong?
I definitely followed it very closely.
Would you pull that a little closer? Yeah, there you go.
From the moment it happened, and I contemplated what would be his motives, what would be acceptable motives, and my mind went to the worst possible scenarios. As far as denials are the topic of conversation right now. Was a cancer treatment denied to his child, to his wife, to parents, and somebody died because of it? That would, in my mind, drive someone to madness, to murder in cold blood. And so I was trying to, wrap my brain around it.
I think everybody was trying to figure out, is he justified?
Right. Then when we find out who it is, and it is a person born into incredible wealth, who had no need for health insurance. He wasn't even insured by United Healthcare. And it was no reason at all. I found it very unjustified in that he's not the martyr that the health world needs.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for the sake of the conversation. Robin Hood didn't need to kill and feed others because he could kill and feed himself, but yet he did. Luigi, to a degree, if you believe, you piece it together, he was more proxy, maybe an active proxy, because I'm astounded. I'm not surprised. Let me just qualify this. When I heard the news, saw the news, kind of started piecing it all together, my initial reaction was, I get it. And even after I found out that he came from a family of wealth and everything else, and the potential of whatever his opinions were, like, I still was like, look, I get it. Can you, in the position that you are, obviously you help so many people apply and obtain and manage and operate and utilize health insurance. It's not fun.
No, it's complicated.
So give me your 2 cents then on what does he really stand for in your opinion? Or what did he stand for?
Well, one of the things that I definitely looked into was this denial rate. Everybody's very upset at all the huge denial rates from all the companies across the country. And I looked into them. And they vary up to 30% with some of the companies. Of these denial rates, 99% of the denials are never appealed. People are not appealing the denials. Because of that 1% of the denials that are appealed, 50% of them are overturned. So my opinion is that you're not advocating for yourself.
Should they, though? I mean, if they pay the premium?
I think so, because when you look through the reasons for these denials, we're just asking questions, or not me, the insurance company. They're just asking questions like, is there another treatment available? Is this really mandatory? Is this out of network? Could you go to somebody in network? All just basic questions that people are so unwilling to do any due diligence or for anything for themselves.
Well, so here's my take on that. Health insurance premiums are very expensive.
They are.
If you're a family of 4, right, and you have a average policy in America, you are still paying in the realm of low end 800 upwards of 1500 a month. And then you have your per person deductible, which could be anywhere from 5K to 12K, right? That's a big gap, but that's the averages. And you got two parents have their day jobs, and then they have two kids that have their extracurriculars. So of a day, they're busy from 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. So when it comes to advocating for themselves for coverage, this is where I'm going to, probably often in this conversation, I'm going to be a Luigi, not advocate, that's the wrong word, but a empath.
Okay. So I have been denied many times over the course of my lifetime as an adult. Most of the times, my doctors will automatically appeal the decision for me with just a simple conversation. They're like, oh, insurance denied that. Do you want us to appeal it? Yes, I would. Please do it for me. I mean, it's just oftentimes people need to have these conversations, and I don't think that they are.
Do you think the insurance companies have gone just too far off the deep end and just making denial kind of part of the process? Because at the end of the day, as we were talking a little briefly before came online here, these companies are publicly traded companies. They are ultimately beholden to not utilized customers or customers that utilize services. They're beholden to shareholders. Correct. So for 100 years plus for these publicly traded companies, their job is to make people money. So are we really surprised that they've made it added layers to the process in an attempt to hope that people don't challenge a denial?
True, and or you could look at it as checks and balances. Pre-Obamacare, people had a limit as to what we would pay each year per person. We'd pay $1 million max. We no longer have those benefits, that max payout. We'll pay whatever it takes. Doctors are well aware of that. So,
well, no. I think everybody involved, other than the sick person, is culpable.
Right.
So like, let's. I want to get into maybe going back to this Luigi.
Okay, sorry.
This cultural zeitgeist, this mindset. Mm-hmm. I think that way more people than will admit completely understand and or privately in their own head or maybe in their own heart, in their own home are saying, you know what, good for him. And here's my theory, and you know this better than anybody. Find a household that hasn't personally experienced a denial of claim, an expense, a bankruptcy, and or a death, either within themselves or in their immediate family and friends, from the current structure of the healthcare system. So if you compound that over 340 million people in the United States and X amount of households, if you assume that 1 in 3 has lost somebody due to healthcare services in one form or another, that's a lot of dead people. That's a lot of grudges.
But at the end of the day, I mean, everybody is going to die, and no health insurance system in the world is going to prevent everyone from dying.
Yeah, I don't think. I think it's the people that pay $1,500 a month and then die because they're told no.
But I also see people today that I know that are alive because of their experimental cancer drugs.
Sure.
That if they stopped taking them, they would die within months. And they wouldn't get that treatment in other countries on a universal healthcare system. They only get that here because we are lucky enough to have it.
Innovation has always been the argument in the United States to keep government out of healthcare. Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask your opinion on this then, because I think the number is like the 27 or 28 most developed nations in the world. We're the outlier. We're the only one that does not have some form of a single payer / universal healthcare system. And in addition to that, when you look at that roughly 30, we are in the bottom third in outcome and life expectancy. And we are the most expensive on a per person cost. So if we're really looking at it from a, take the humanity out of it and we look at the statistics and we compare ourselves to other economically viable, growing, wealthy nations, we're losing.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to leave this open-ended. The question is it too much about the money?
I don't think it's about the money. I don't think that our country is set up the way that other countries are. I don't think that it would be an efficiently ran system. Sorry, I talk with my hands.
No, that's fine.
I don't think it would be an efficiently ran system. There would be too many loopholes, too many denials, and it's not about the money. It would not be a good situation for us.
Well, but under universal health care, there are no denials. It's all, it's because that was one of the biggest benefits of Obamacare, ACA in particular, was you immediately eliminated the pre-existing conditions. I think I've seen statistics where roughly 80% plus of Americans are absolutely in favor of covering pre-existing conditions. And then you do in the same poll, who's in favor of Obamacare? And based on narrative, you'll have 50-50.
When I would say anybody over 45 years old has a pre-existing condition. Like
Correct.
If you take blood pressure medicine, if you take anything, you have a pre-existing condition, and they don't realize that. They don't realize pre-ACA, people with those situations couldn't retire. They couldn't buy a private health insurance plan. They had to stay working at the company with their group plan until they were old enough for Medicare. ACA allows them to retire, to get a private plan. And it's amazing for those people.
When you hear the age 65, what does it mean to you within the realm of this conversation? And why is it so beneficial to humans in America?
In America, because then they can get free health insurance.
Don't you find that ironic?
But Medicare is not a perfect system.
Is it better than the private system?
Yes, I would say so, actually.
It's obviously more affordable than the private system.
Absolutely.
So why is it so hard for us to just accept those simple, basic tenets and follow other developed nations? I'm going to go back to the money.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's a lot of individuals, and please push back or otherwise, there's a lot of people that make money off of this system, right? I.e. agents as well. In doing this, where's your empathy? Like, do you feel like, would you consider yourself an empathetic agent?
Absolutely. I work for my clients. I feel like open enrollment is my pro bono time, that I do this for less than minimum wage, honestly, when it's all said and done, for what they pay me now that the ACA is active. I go through in detail to find the right networks, the right plans, make sure medication is covered, make sure your doctors are covered. So I am there for my clients. If they have a problem, I will go to bat for them for denials and things like that. Unless they need Ozempic and they're not pre-diabetic, then I will not go to bat for you.
GLPs. No, I get that. That's a whole other.
That's a whole, yeah. Don't make me mad.
Well, I guess I'm gonna bring our man back up here, Luigi.
Okay.
Do you think that he is just really kind of a symbol of the good, bad, and the indifferent of our system?
Yes, and I don't think he would be as big of a symbol if he didn't look the way he looked. I think that certainly helps his cause and popularity.
They say the same thing about Ivanka. Oh, there's a low blow there.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he would have kept a hood and a mask on the whole time, he would say he's the Unabomber in perpetuity. He would still go down in folklore.
I would still say that he's mentally unwell, and he went mentally off the chains, and that this was not a good thing to do. And it shouldn't be followed and it shouldn't be praised. There are other ways to get things accomplished. There are other ways to get change accomplished other than murdering somebody in the middle of the street.
But it did raise awareness. It did bring it to the forefront. Again, I am not advocating for the action itself. But we're kind of skimming over a lot of big subjects here.
Sure.
Volume, numbers, deaths, bankruptcies, etc. We're talking about big human issues.
Do you really think he had a concept of those big human issues going on?
He's a pretty educated individual. He could have been extremely well read and maybe had his own form of moral clarity. And in the French style, provided his own guillotine. Because if he was truly chaotic or if he was truly a psychopath, and I'm not saying he's not, I don't know that, but when you're raised in an environment in which you have all privilege and you are at top educational institutions and you got a good job, you got everything going on, at some point something happened. And I think that, and which makes him really a unique story. Now, let me paint a different picture. Let's say that it is that family of four, that 30-something mom got 2 kids at home, and one ends up, coming down with, God forbid, like leukemia or whatever, and they are terminal without service, and that coverage goes sideways, and mama bears have one job. They have one calling in life once they become mama bears, right?
Right.
Protect the cubs. And if that cub is going to be a victim or statistic to a system, what if it was that mama bear that pulled that trigger?
It would get a lot more sympathy out of me as a mom, as a person. Definitely, without a doubt.
So can't we extrapolate the potential that maybe our handsome solo single kid, right? To a degree, wasn't he acting on behalf of that mom?
Perhaps. Or is he just demonstrating the entitlement of his generation?
He's going to prison for a long, long time.
I hope so.
But revolutions have started for less.
True. I mean,
this is really important. Like I love this conversation because you know my family, you know our story, you know that from my posts. If I were to pick one subject, healthcare, universal healthcare, right? If I were to ever run for office and I was told you pick one, I'm picking healthcare, and I would be going down the path of single payer, and the reason is, I could make the argument that all 4 were victims of our healthcare system. Now, there was a lot of other things going on, personal choices and other, that accelerated.
I agree.
But whether it's female checkups for my mom that she never could afford, never took up, whether it was same thing, annuals for my dad, or cheaper meds for whatever, Ozempic. If Ozempic was available to him at the age of 35, does he continue to eat and smoke the way he does? Again, there's a lot of other environmental factors that were contributable there. Same with Ryan.
Yeah.
Dana. What if he had access to
mental health,
cheap, free mental health care, right? Every single one of them, I could quote Luigi reverse engineer blame to the system.
But I feel like the ACA came in and did address a lot of those issues. The ACA provides free well visits every year, which I encourage all my clients. I print out what is free and what is provided by their plan. Well checks. We want you to get your mammograms. We want every female to get her check. We want your blood work done every single year.
Do you find it funny, though, that the ACA, if you have an individual policy, you can get all that stuff free, right? But but under an employer plan, you are subject to the terms of the plan.
Correct.
So a free mammogram
Those are all grandfathered end policies,
Right.
and they are less expensive than the ACA policies because they don't cover as much
Right.
things. And I hate that. They don't cover mental health or drug rehab the way that the ACA plan does.
What? So let me. I don't want to interject my story more. I want to take more of a generic your clients as a mass. You have to have been exposed to a number of their own stories similar to mine, right?
Absolutely. Whereas I got a call once, a lady, family of four, low income, they made $35,000 a year for the family of four. She said that they didn't believe in health insurance, but she had just found out she had cancer. And I'm like, well, it's not the tooth fairy, but let me help you out. I got her enrolled in health insurance the very next first of the month, which happened to be a week later.
Mm-hmm.
She is alive today. That's 3 years later. I have helped other people where an organ transplant was denied off of a private policy, pre-ACA policy. She moved, she quit her job. I got her an ACA plan. She got her new lungs and is alive today. So I've seen the plans. I see the good that it does and the people that are alive today because of it. Like previously, if that woman called, I have cancer,
So
I would have been like, you're
here's
dead.
Here's what I'm hearing then. And this is a cheap armchair analysis. You personally, in dealing with insurance from a group down to an individual level, you've seen the private/public marketplaces do their job. And up to this point, what the stories that you're telling, the anecdotes that you're telling, are these huge benefits that have attributed to your service, to your client, in putting them into government healthcare.
Absolutely.
Do you ever lay in bed at night and wonder what if? Like, what if we did truly have you? Like, what would your role be? Like in an environment like that? Because at the end of the day, you still have to have it. It still has to operate.
I mean, I am assuming in a universal health care, it would be like our Medicare system, which people still get options for. So they would still need someone to explain that to them, which I feel that is what I do. I am a facilitator and a navigator to try to help them see which networks take which coverage, what my copay would be.
Right.
And, you know, I can do Excel spreadsheets and type in numbers and...
I just have like, I wonder about kind of that moral compass. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I know plenty of agents, you know, coming from that world as well, way back in the day, and I still know some that are, you know, operating today. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money to be made when it comes to healthcare, period, as an agent. The motive to be an asset or an advocate or empathetic in the process, at some point, the green gets in the way, right? And that's just the reality of the situation, because it's, you know, this is where I will take doctors out of that. The exception to the rule would be a doctor that's like being a doctor just because they want to make money, because you can't do that and go to all that school and then basically you're rated based on, you know, whether you help people live longer, right? Insurance agents don't have that metric. So, like, what can be done within the industry maybe to help increase advocacy and empathy as part of the process in executing these policies? Okay, I just asked, how does the industry improve to make sure and put empathy in front of commission?
Always doing the right thing for your clients is first and foremost the mission I have as an insurance agent. So I don't ever sell based on bonuses or potential commission. And fortunately, the ACA, they pay us the same thing per person no matter what. So I therefore have no motives to sell Ambetter versus Blue Cross Blue Shield. I am totally motivated by who has the better network, who can better service my clients. I do not, in fact, enjoy selling Blue Cross Blue Shield in Illinois because they're the most expensive, but they have the best network in our area. I would say that would be the biggest problem right now in health insurance is the networks accepting. Like if we could get all the hospitals and doctors to accept every health insurance.
Why do they not?
They don't. It's everything is a price negotiation situation. So they do not accept the price that Blue Cross Blue Shield is willing to pay for an MRI for.
Are you familiar? Obviously, you know who Mark Cuban is. Are you familiar with Cost Plus Drugs? Kind of what he's doing. CostPlusDrugs.com, I believe. Have you explored that ever?
No, and even Amazon was coming out with a new health insurance this year.
I think it's largely in part due to what he's done.
So yes, they've contacted me, and I told them I would gladly sell their product and learn more information about it as long as it was ACA compliant.
So I've followed it a little bit because I'm a huge Mark Cuban fan to begin with, but at the end of the day, what he did was he created a company in which transparency was ultimately just the bottom line. So simply put, they have a business in which they can buy the drugs direct from manufacturers because there's so many drugs that are just all these independent manufacturers that have been FDA approved and have been for a long, long time, and that are not part of J&J. That they are buying them at cost, and then the deal is cost plus. So they add 5% is their margin plus shipping and handling and a physician fee or a pharmacist fee, right? And we're talking 50, 60, upwards of 80, 90% discounts when you compare side by side individuals that go through their typical doctor who then write a script and it goes to Walgreens or another, PBM, pharmacy benefit managers, right? CVS or Walgreens, et cetera. And the numbers just skyrocketing.
That's amazing.
I think that the domino effect of what's going on there is, we talk about in America like free market, open competition, et cetera. Healthcare is the most closed institution. You have no idea how much things really cost.
None.
So when here comes my boy Luigi again. When you have a system that hides everything, and at the end of that tunnel is the potential of service, surgery, survivability, or other. If nothing changes, do you think we're going to see more Luigis?
Yes.
Copycat killers.
Yeah. Obviously, they already took down all the other CEOs' photos for every other major health insurance network. All the upper-level execs hired more security. Yes, it's something that they're all scared about. And there were already threats to the CEO that was shot. So this isn't that far off.
What does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
It made me feel very nervous. I mean, I had memes coming to me within an hour of him being shot, and I didn't post any of them because I don't want to be on the target because I sold these people the policy.
Well, that was gonna be a question that I had. Do you feel an elevated threat to yourself because
absolutely
you're in the system?
Yes, I've already been. It's already a threat in the other lines of business. If, say, we deny a claim on a homeowner's insurance, they're going to be mad at their agent.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? Can we reasonably agree that one of the biggest problems with the system, healthcare and or home insurance, I don't care, any insurance, is they are all for-profit industries, period.
Yes.
They're publicly traded, therefore they have to answer to the shareholders. We've kind of established that. Would you agree that is like, forget about marketplaces, forget about government regulation, forget
Absolutely.
about...
And we have to make money at the end of the day. We can't operate at a deficit.
Correct. So therefore, just hypothetically, let's just talk about health insurance. Should health insurance carriers not be allowed to be publicly traded companies? That's a big question, I know.
It's a big question. I think that they would operate much better as a not-for-profit agency myself, to give everything back to research and development, but that is the liberal side of me.
Well, I mean, it like the extension.
And I don't think that the CEO should be paid the billions of dollars or whatever that they're paid. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I think the individual that was taken down, murdered. 40 million was his last year's total comp package.
That's ridiculous for an individual who should run basically a not-for-profit company that helps people.
Yeah. So if we kind of piece together all of these things, these statistics / optics / operational, do you feel like in the 20 plus years that you've been doing it, do you think that, okay, so like if we had a bar in 2003, whenever you started, healthcare was at 0, just as far as like being productive and or not productive, whatever, use that terminology. Fast forward 21 years. Are we above or below that line right now from a healthcare standpoint?
We're definitely below. I mean, the costs have gone up, but the bells and whistles have gone up. But that's what I'm supposed to sell are the bells and whistles. But they are really good bells and whistles.
Well, so a lot of the bells and whistles, and I think I know what you're referring, like wellness checks, things like that. So many of these things are kind of painted in the veil of exercise or diet and all these other things. Well, in order for this to really work, you really need to be doing these things.
Which is a lot of common sense.
Totally common sense. Which which is a great transition, because what we're talking about is healthcare, life health choices. I want to get your take on RFK, the Kennedy that none of the other Kennedys want to talk about, and specifically health and homeland, whatever the department is that he's nominated for. 2 areas that are knee deep in this healthcare conversation. And you can pick or choose whichever one you want to maybe address first. That would be vaccines, which is the obvious one. And the other one is food, ingredients, dyes, things like that. Because it's almost as if those 2 things are kind of like at polar opposite ends of the ideological spectrum. Where are you on RFK and those 2 areas?
I definitely think that a lot of our health issues today are associated with the food and the dyes and the GMOs that we have consumed throughout our lifetime. And I would say not just our lifetime, through the last 50 years. I mean, since the Depression and powdered milk and all that it's not good. And the effects that it has had genetically on our body has not been good.
God, but Crisco and biscuits is just like fire. Especially the butter flavor one.
I mean, you can catch Crisco on fire and use it as a candle.
I love it.
How can that be healthy to eat?
Taste buds don't lie.
And Jell-O. What is Jell-O even? So
I mean, we're being flip, but how do you break that trend?
The farm to table thing is coming. I mean, that's been a growing trend in eating organic and eating healthy, and needs to. Michelle Obama tried to improve that with the schools, and I think that needs to be a bigger focus. So
isn't that really funny when you think back to what Michelle tried to do and the whole narrative around healthy food, non-dyes, et cetera, et cetera? That was, to the center right, that was like, oh, no, that's government intervention. But now that it's an old white guy with the name of Kennedy that doesn't like Democrats, now it's okay.
Right. And people are pointing out that people on public food stamps can't afford to buy healthy foods. They're only buying processed food, which is bad, and it's exasperating the system.
Yeah, because if he gets his way and those things are outlawed and the cost of actual groceries goes up to, meet the supply and demand of actual vegetables and non-processed, SNAP benefits and everything else is going to go through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
But do we see... So this is the chicken or the egg then.
Right.
Okay, so if everybody ends up being healthier, does healthcare insurance costs drop because everybody's eating healthier and you have less of those diseases, right? I mean, theoretically that's the best.
That's
Coke,
the plan.
or Jinx, you owe me Coke, right?
That's the plan.
Like being in the industry, though, when you look at these things, and I know that you read the news, and I know that you follow on politics, and I know that you poke the bear every now and then, when you see all this kind of like what I would call horizontal hypocrisy, right?
Right.
You know, where everybody wants to claim that they're in a vertical silo of conservative or liberal or whatever, but realistically, they're all talking about the same thing horizontally. Like, how do you view or how do you anticipate the industry reacting to that? Or is it all the way back to my original point where it doesn't matter, it's all about shareholders?
Currently, under the current system, I would feel it's all about shareholders and dealing with the transparency that they have to deal with, which the companies do have transparency. They do have to report on all of these issues and all of their denials and everything like that. So I do see that this will improve in the future.
So when you
perhaps
when you do talk about the bells and the whistles, I know that you're trained and you're given the literature and everything else, and you have the talking points, et cetera. When you go in and you're talking to somebody new, and you know you got to get to the point where you start to talk about lifestyle, and you talk about choices, and you talk about, you know, this type of wellness check in conjunction with walking a mile a day or whatever it is. Like, is that your place as an agent to talk about lifestyle choice? Yet the carriers are selling these policies based upon this this relationship with lifestyle choices. How do you true that up?
I mean, maybe perhaps being a caring female, I come across as, you know, I care about you and I want you to be healthy and live a long and healthy life. And these are just, I'm not being a nag. I'm not trying to nag you. I'm just trying to point out what's best for you and what they recommend. Things like that. So
do you look forward to that part of the conversation?
I don't mind it at all. I don't look forward to other conversations, much more like, you know, telling somebody their premium went to $900 a month from $30 a month, and they have to do that policy because those doctors are in that plan. So I definitely don't mind harping on people to go get their wellness check and colostomy or, you know, go get these checks, please.
Well, so we are extremely visual individuals, and there are certain optical realities of humans, right, as it pertains to health. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt or had a moment in which maybe somebody was like, I'm just going to say it, morbidly obese or otherwise, where you know this individual is going to be a utilizer of this coverage for, you know, maybe it's genetics, maybe it's self-inflicted, maybe usually it's both in some way. Like, is that comfortable for you?
I don't mind it at all. I mean, I'm not judgmental, so I understand everybody has their situations. I will get people with 20 or 30 medications, and I've been doing this for so long, and I take medications myself. I know what they are for. I get it. It just makes me want to help them make sure their needs are met that much more. So I don't, fortunately, judge people for that sort of thing.
Are you seeing an increase or a decrease in personal responsibility towards wellness? You know, and let me frame this a little bit. We were talking earlier about COVID and the COVID years and the effect that it had on businesses, et cetera. Well, one of the areas that it had the most effect was on exercise, home exercise, Peloton, right? The Peloton revolution. And you had a whole bunch of people that, because of COVID, were not going out to drink anymore, not going out to eat anymore, and they were all at home and they're cooking. And we have all seen in our circles some form of like a healthcare wave. More people that are sober, more people that are exercising more, just visually, you know, like, okay, I see it. Do you see that within the industry? Do you, in addressing clients and healthcare in general, do you think that there's a lot of individuals who are maybe taking it upon themselves?
Absolutely. And I would definitely say the younger generation, it's more common knowledge to them, and they understand, oh, I'll get discounts or this sort of thing if I do some of these well checks. If
Don't
I
smoke and
don't smoke, if I get the Fitbit and sync it with their app. And so they're much more aware and cognizant of what they need to do.
So from a demographic perspective, then, let me ask, compare and contrast. You just touched on the younger generation. I have one of those too, 19-year-old, right?
Right.
And I know a number of others that are like in, young 20s, mid 20s. My 2 cents on them is they all are, if I were to just generically categorize them, they are drinking less, they are doing fewer drugs, and they're exercising more and eating better, generically.
I would say that as well. I have a teen daughter, and yeah, she's way more responsible than I was at that age, and I was a straight A student, and yeah.
Let's go to the boomer generation. Due to science, technology advances, etc., they are all living longer. That's just kind of the math of the situation.
Right.
I would not say, based on those that I'm around, that I'm seeing the same type of active changes, decisions
No.
to become healthier.
No.
And I have a theory, and it leads all the way back to the age of 65.
Yeah. And my father, he was always on cholesterol medicine, blood pressure medicine. And his theory was if he took the medicine, he could still eat bacon. And, you
Right.
know, it's like, Dad, no, it doesn't work that way. 3 heart stents later, dealing with all these other health issues. And he's 66 and having all these crazy health issues that people in their 80s have. And it is because lifestyle.
Speaking of lifestyle, speaking of drugs in particular, this is one of the things I wanted to bring up to you because I'm assuming you probably have a little bit of a sense of humor approach to this when you look at the cost of drugs in particular. And we all know that the arguments for expensive drugs is the R&D. They all talk about R&D, R&D, R&D. But the reality is one of the largest expenses for these drug companies is marketing. So when you start to true all that up, because you have a sense of humor and you're a cynic, when you watch Hulu, Sunday Night Football game, or whatever it is, and you look at all the drug commercials, how does it make you feel, or what kind of joke do you have when you know that 80% of those commercials are dick drugs? It's literally...
I'm very glad that we're very focused on that. And
because I know roughly how much those ads cost. Just obviously that's what I'm...
right. Obviously that industry isn't hurting at all. I only wish that we would focus maybe a little of that money maybe on menopause, because honestly, like 25 years ago, I didn't think I would have any of these symptoms that I have currently, because I'm like, oh, research will figure it out by the time of that age. No, but we have mastered the erection, thank God.
That and shingles, and what else? What's the other hot ones right now? Obviously, the Ozempics and GLPs. Those are popping off right now because everybody wants to be skinnier so that they can get laid. But in order to get laid, you got to go take the dick drugs.
Right.
And then all the other drugs that are actually still super, super expensive, like controlling cholesterol, those aren't sexy. Mm-mm. But in order to justifying those prices, they're spending all the money on advertising all the other drugs.
Yes.
I brought it up to be flip, but like in saying it, does that make you mad? Does that make you like frustrated? Because like this narrative of why.
It's infuriating, and it's infuriating to look up the different tiers of drugs. And maybe if I get a diabetic client who's like, this new amazing drug, it's the one I need, but then you look them up and it's like, oh, well, because it's new and amazing, it's tier 3, it's the most expensive, and it's not covered, or it's going to cost you $300 a month, whereas anything else would be free. So I don't love those. I don't love seeing the commercials. I think that's a waste of money, where
Because anybody that wants to, any individual that is either physically or mentally in need of those pills, they don't need a commercial to figure that out.
No.
Because there's going to be a spouse at all or others that are going to say, hey, here's a phone number.
Yeah, let's get you to the doctor.
Like, it's so like, I laugh. And then I love whenever they toss out the side effects.
The side effects, I'm like, uh-oh. Well, I'm going to have anal leakage, thank God. But,
Well, yeah, so then immediately everybody's like, well, if I'm in this position, that won't. And then it's just this
right.
decelerating scale of just normal.
No, it's awful. I do not like commercials for drugs. I don't like the top tier drugs. They don't need to do that.
Do you get a lot of clients or prospective clients or whatever asking about GLPs now?
Yes.
What's your standard response? I call you up and I'm like, hey, Rachel, I've got this ACA plan, middle of the road. It's a Cadillac. It's not a Ferrari. It's not a Rolls Royce, and it's not a Pinto. I'm 50 pounds overweight. I want GLPs, or what do you think?
That we're going to have to put you up to a gold plan. Probably the most expensive plan, so that it would be covered with the lowest out-of-pocket expense. So you're not paying like $250 a month or something for it.
Do you find it? So again, here's another one of those chicken or egg scenarios. Okay, if we know that our healthcare system, as it pertains to unhealthy / obese people in particular, because we know that the number one killer in America is heart disease,
right,
across the board, period, and the largest determinant of those issues is obesity. Okay, so here comes a new line of drugs that is tackling obesity head on. What's your take on that?
It makes me very nervous. Any brand new line of drugs makes me nervous, and I'm apprehensive about, kind of along vaccine lines. Like, I would rather research be done for a period of years, perhaps only on the diabetics, and not let it be shared amongst everybody.
But it's pretty profitable.
And that is why they shared it with everybody.
And here we are back at the finish line, or at the starting line. Which is it, finish line or starting line? I think
it's all about money. And I feel like in 20 years from now, they won't have commercials, but they will. If they did, it would be like, did you take Ozempic in 2024?
You're going to have your Ray-Bans on, and the in-ear is going to be like, we know that you took Ozempic.
Please join
Call this attorney.
Class action lawsuit. Exactly. So I don't trust them myself, but I know that they are successful in doing what the gastric bypass did for people, which was also a temporary fix for most morbidly obese people.
Yeah, it's really kind of crazy, because it's almost as if the drug industry understands supply and demand. Mm-hmm. More importantly, they understand human taste, i.e. being able to perform, right, in the bedroom. And or I need to be thin so that I can meet that person and then go perform. It's almost like that's really what it always comes down to. Nobody really cares about my LDL level,
right?
Until you have to,
right?
So it's like it is. So maybe let me pose the question this way: is this really a healthcare issue, or is this a marketing issue?
That would be a marketing issue.
Yeah.
And perhaps with regulation to drug companies to prevent marketing like they did to the tobacco industry, that could cut their costs.
Do you think the tobacco industry justifiably had a red X on it?
Yes.
What about alcohol?
I don't think they have had a big enough red X. I mean, to be honest. But
no, I would agree. It's like if you eat a 5 milligram gummy, you are all of a sudden kind of on a fringe of the fringe of acceptability. But if you drink a 12 pack at a football game, you're normal.
You're normal, right?
And I was one of those guys. I get it. All my brothers were. They were worse. Ryan was worse.
But then you have all the health issues from drinking 12 beers on a regular basis all the time.
Yeah.
As opposed to eating a 5 milligram gummy.
Well, don't you find it funny that the number one industry that is lobbying against, well, you don't find it funny, you probably find it obvious. you know where I'm going with this. It's the alcohol industry that's lobbying against legalization of marijuana.
Also, big farm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because instead of that nighttime sleepy, prescription drug.
You can take a nighttime edible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you have a lot of clients ask you about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And or like it's in Illinois, you can turn in your opioid prescription at dispensaries and they will give you an equivalent pain edible.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's pretty brilliant.
Right.
So
that is one of the reasons Big Pharma doesn't like the cannabis industry.
Okay, so this brings me back to, because I watched, what was that movie with Steve Carell where he was the CEO of the Big Pharma that was all the opioids. You know what I'm talking about? It was oh my God, Oxy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Oxy, mega $1 million industry that just absolutely destroyed really all of America, not just
all of America.
Fast forward to now, we get back to weed and edibles, and you think of the damage that Oxy did in Steve Carell's character. Are we really? Again, Luigi is not a surprise to me.
Mm-mm.
Because you have so much money involved. You have so many heartstrings that are at the core of this.
Right. Because
how many families, if given the opportunity to pull the trigger on the Oxy CEOs, would have taken it?
Definitely.
Thousands, tens of thousands.
I mean, Purdue Pharma shouldn't exist anymore.
Bingo. That's the scary part.
Like nobody should have any assets. The family should be stripped of everything and given to the survivors for all the damage that they did.
I agree, 100%. But they have lobbying power.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to do this show anymore. It's all the press. I just think that nothing is linear. I tell you what. No, I'm about to cry. No, quick break. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to let's talk a little bit of Granite City.
Sounds good.
I got some ideas there. Be right back.
This is way better than selling insurance.
Yeah, it doesn't pay as well though. Should.
Yeah, there you go.
I should set up like a tip jar.
So
two tip jars. One is shut the fuck up. Here, please go away. And then the other one is like keep it up.
Play your podcast. What publications?
All the usual suspects.
Okay.
Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Perfect.
Amazon. I'm a equal opportunity pod whore.
Excellent.
So I mentioned before we took a quick snap break there. I wanted to get into, excuse me, talk a little bit about our background, where we grew up, kind of. Let me see here, probably 2-3 episodes ago, I had Mark Hannigan on. You remember Mark?
Mm-hmm.
My age, class of 93.
Okay.
And I brought him on, and we talked about kind of root cause of certain things. We got a little philosophical. He's extremely intellectual in his approach to things. He tends to be kind of a little bit of a Zen vibe. I think that's a byproduct of him and Yurko and Ben Hicks and all of them. They all kind of talk that way. They read Jim Morrison too often. But anyway,
it happens.
We were talking, and he no longer is in town. He's up in Alton now. I haven't been in town, since I graduated. For a multitude of reasons. You are living up the bluff. And I know that we probably all made our decisions based on a whole bunch of life events and opportunities, et cetera. But what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about along the lines of this conversation, because what we've been doing up to this point is really attempting to peel the onion back on motive. Talking about Luigi this whole time, like, why did he do it? We're in agreement that murder sucks. I think I'm further in the camp of, I get it. I'm not surprised. Is there a part of me that's like, happy is absolutely the wrong word, but am I like curious to see what comes of it? Absolutely. So, and here's where I'm going with this. When we look at, you're talking about healthcare earlier and the role that personal choice has. And here's your plan, here's your extra bells and whistles. But in order for these bells and whistles to really work, you probably need to look at your groceries. You probably need to maybe go for a walk in the morning or whatever. And this is a long intro to this question, but stick with me here. Politically speaking, on social media, all these topics that have arisen, and we have, again, the same friend network predominantly from our hometown. You start to look at, again, cause and effect and personal choices and things like that. Do you feel like healthcare is kind of one of those things that is turning communities to be more pissed off, to be more suspect of government, suspect of corporations, suspect of powers that be? Because when I think of Granite right now, there's a lot of good people there. There's a lot of good momentum. There's things that are occurring that are inspirational to a degree, given, kind of the optics from outside. But it just feels like everybody's mad all the time. Would you agree with that?
Correct. I feel like, and I have clients down there, and I'm one of the biggest advocates when they start to remodel and clean up the downtown area. I think it's great. I love seeing the old buildings fixed up, and but there's sophomoric fighting going on a lot between the powers that be, between the people that are supposed to be running the town, and I think that makes everybody look bad in the city.
So let me ask you this, and I hate the term self-interest, but it's a real term, right? Mm-hmm. And in the political landscape, everybody always talks about and kind of belittles individuals kind of from a theoretical perspective when they're like, well, you're voting against your own self-interest, right?
Right.
Whatever the reason is, whoever the candidate was or is, et cetera. When you look at a town like Granite where we grew up, what would you say is the self-interest at this point? Like, is it jobs? Is it schools? Is it all of it? Is it healthcare? Is it just identity? Is it, like when you look at communities that are kind of running through the spectrum of up and down, and assuming that they're on the up, what's missing?
What's missing in Granite right now? They have they don't have a lot of checks and balances as far as some of the things I've noticed. A lot of liquor liability or liquor licenses and gambling licenses have been given out freely, rather than having like a limit on 20 per town capita. They're thinking that this will bring in revenue, but it's not. It's like, what kind of revenue are you bringing into the town? What kind of environment are you creating? So I kind of think that they are hurting themselves with some of the development that they are doing.
That to me feels like really a national issue as well. Mm-hmm. Everybody's trying to pay their bills, be it municipalities or households.
Right.
But munis in particular, and I think that shift in spend, because when you talk about municipalities, in large part, small, mid-sized towns, in that 10,000 to 30,000 population, whatever, or 30,000 and under, so much of their revenue is derived from retail, restaurants, bars, small
Correct.
shopping, et cetera. And in so many of these communities, post-COVID in particular, you have not only many of them that didn't survive, but we talked about earlier, there's this shift in mindset of younger generations that just aren't drinking as much or eating healthier. And then at the top end, you have this consolidation from a retail standpoint. What is it right now? The largest grocer in America is Walmart. So the Chunkos of the world, they're a dying breed.
They are. But towns like Granite, they do have a lot of local support for their local mom and pop owned businesses. And so I do think that that is one thing that they have going for them is the community cares about those places.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I agree. You know, it's a whole bunch of people that are trying to do some cool things. It's just sometimes I wonder, you know, who are these people at times? Because there's extremists that are really like, man, they're MAGA to the core or woke to the core, whatever. Take your pick. And I kind of dumb it down to they're just not they're not happy. Everything is harder. So therefore they have to point the finger at somebody. You know? Whether it's their premiums, right?
Right.
Or their property taxes are increasing, but if they went to sell their house, they're going to sell it for less than what they bought it for. You know? There's a lot of that going on too in communities across the country.
Yes.
So I want to bring this back into the insurance world then. You know, do you ever like look at that kind of broader stroke and just wonder what is the role anymore of the insurance agency? You know, because the average individual, when they think of their agent, and this is no offense to you.
No worries.
I think that they don't view, this is not like a friend. This is like a necessary evil is the term that, you know, if you were to poll Americans and say insurance agent, friend, necessary evil.
And I get that.
It's probably going to be 80-20.
I get that.
Why? What can change? How does this improve?
Well, one of the things I left my captive company. I worked for Country Financial for 5 years when I first got started. And then I became a broker so that I could give my customers options. Mm-hmm. And that was important to me. The last 2 to 3 years have been more the trickiest times in insurance that I've seen in 20 with rates going up. But we've had on average 20 catastrophic storms per year in the last 3 years as opposed to like 1 or 2. So our claims are going up. And back to we're not a for-free company, you know, we're a for-profit. So we have to cover those claims.
Right. So
all of our costs are going up. We're also dealing with states like California who have regulations in place so that their homeowners insurance cannot be raised. Companies are passing the buck off to other states.
Or you have states like Florida in which the reinsurance market is saying go pound sand.
Exactly.
Literally.
So a lot of those costs are being passed off to people in the Midwest like us. And so for the past 3 years, I've seen homeowners rates go up on average 40% a year. So I know I'm the bad guy. I mean, I hate it.
Okay, so let's get into the super hypothetical world where, you know, this is purely a political a lens. Global warming, climate change.
Climate change is obviously an issue.
So the insurance insurance industry is front row to rising ocean temperatures,
absolutely,
rising tornado counts, hurricanes, etc. How do you view the insurance industry managing this moving forward? Because especially with some of the new administration that we just elected in, and a lot of the changes that are occurring globally, it's not going to get better.
It's not going to get better. Because actuaries will not let us, they will charge what they have to charge for us to operate. And then I will have to have these conversations. I, the middleman, will have to have the conversations with the consumer that your insurance is going from $2,000 a year to $6,000, and that's the cheapest it is.
Yeah. So when you reverse engineer this trend, you know, you mentioned actuaries. You know, because the actuaries obviously kick out the numbers that drive policy within these industries.
Correct.
And I'm going to be the cynic here for a second. You know, when I look at, I don't care who it is, Progressive. Okay, Progressive is a company publicly traded. How do they reverse engineer what they're going to do? Number one, they have a profit margin that is their target annually. let's say 5%. Then they have a compensation packages that should trend up 4 to 5% annually. So there's, let's just say 5%. There's 10% more. And then they have benefit packages that they need to increase annually to keep better employees at 5%. Simple math. 5, 5, 5. There's 15%. So no matter what, if they do $1 million in business, and they do obviously way more than $1 million, now they got to be, 1.15, right? And then you have claims.
Right.
And you have premiums. So then you're paying it out. So if your claims are increasing at a 2x, 3x rate due to weather, then in order to maintain that top 15% of mandatory margin, it's policyholders.
Yeah.
So,
it's just basic math.
So that's really not a question. That's just me complaining.
It's just basic math. Yeah.
Like, does that bother you? Like, do you ever look at the industry? You like the industry, obviously. You've been in it for 21 plus years. But when you start to see hailstorms and tornadoes and, health care claims and all this stuff, like at some point, does it feel like a perfect storm? Literally.
Definitely. And it's definitely caused stress and turnover in the industry that I haven't seen ever before. Companies pulling out of states which have been there forever and just being like, we can't operate in Illinois anymore. We're sorry. We can't sell personal lines in Illinois anymore. Sorry. So this is happening everywhere. So there's a lot of transition. A lot of these companies are rethinking, we can't do this, And so I'm just navigating along, just sticking with it. I've been here too long to do something else now.
No, I get that. I mean, it's just scary though.
It is very scary
because we're both parents, right?
Right.
We have kids that are going to be
going to college soon,
and these issues are only going to get worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, boy, this is a really uplifting episode.
Yeah, sorry. But I see the good that I do all the time, I do, believe it or not, rebuilding people's houses.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question. Again, our friend Luigi. What if in a year's time, because I think the numbers that we're all seeing is roughly, what is that, 30%
yes.
decline ratio? And
that was like at a high end, honestly. That was the high end.
Well, let's just say it's 25%.
Okay. Conservatively.
What if we see in 12, 18, 24 months, what if that decline rate drops to 20%? And we can't point to any other outlier than that particular event, because what's going to really change? Are people all of a sudden going to become healthier and exercise at a 5% greater rate? Or
are they going to suddenly start advocating for themselves and fight the denials? Probably not.
No, because the rest of their life is consumed with just paying bills.
Right.
So they're not going to do any of that.
And nobody opens their mail anymore to even know that they were denied.
Which mail is antiquated anyway.
I know. I understand.
So my point is, like, hypothetically, what if this little punk of a Robin Hood leads to a 5% difference in claims?
That would be great. But what if this punk of the Robin Hood leads Donald Trump to say, oh, the system isn't working, let's just throw it all out. And then we go back to where we were
Well, that's
before.
what you and I both know. I think we're both on the same page on this. He said that in 2016.
Yeah.
Failed.
He tried.
And he was beat by Republicans.
He tried, and he did bring to market a lot of non-ACA plans, which became very confusing for consumers because they bought them. They were way less expensive, but then they didn't cover, like, if you went to the hospital and needed surgery. Sorry, this is only like
Oh, no, it was definitely a 3-card money.
Like, it was horrible.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 years replacing those plans and convincing people that they were garbage.
For our listeners, let's be clear. What happened, and I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
The Trump administration, when it came time for renewals, they did 2 things. Number 1, they made the website more difficult to navigate. And number 2, they rolled out within states plans that were supposed to look like ACA, but they were not ACA.
And they were cheaper. They also made open enrollment less time.
Yep.
And if clients did not go through the open enrollment process, they lost their tax incentive, whereas previously it just rolled automatically. So that from that point on, now every year I have to manually go through each person's open enrollment so that they don't lose their tax incentives.
Oh my God, this infuriates me.
Oh, yeah. And so I'm terrified about what will happen now. And with this negative popularity, because I do know the good it does. Because pre-existing conditions, that will be the first thing that companies will be like, oh, we're going to start charging for pre-existing conditions.
That'll be the death blow of the Republican Party, though. If they do that, the midterm, like it would be over. And I think whether or not they pretend to be empathetic on TV or on their Twitter page or whatever to those situations, or not, I should say. I've been wrong before, but I don't see any way they get rid of that, because that would be political suicide.
Or take away the Medicare expansion.
Bingo. Or increase Social Security age. Take your pick. Any one of those things that they claim are prudent will be, well, it depends on the education, because they have proven or attempted to prove that we didn't do that. That's on the blue team.
Right.
No. Yeah, it's very scary.
It's scary. So I don't want health insurance to be painted in this negative light, like that we're evil and horrible. We deny everybody, because it's not the case.
Well, that's the funny thing. It's like, no. 70% of people always get their services. And we're not even talking about the people that are uninsured. Right. Which is another 30% of our population.
And that's just the claims. So I could have 85 claims, and they could have just denied one or two of those things for various reasons. So yeah, it's not 70% of people. I mean, we're not denying claims to 30% of all 70%
of the no, I understand that.
Of the claims. So
yeah, which is ultimately what people pay premiums for.
Right. All I'm saying is, you got to fight for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to ask questions. And
well, do you feel, though, that position is really just kind of like your defense mechanism as an agent? Because we talk about people that are obese that do not have genetic disposition. It's like, look, you got to fight for yourself. You got to try not to get the supersized extra value meal. Try to add veggies once a week. Whatever. We tell people, here are simple little things. We lecture. We politely lecture.
Yes.
Do you? And I don't want to belittle telling people to advocate, but to a degree, isn't that a little bit of a lecture? Whenever they're spending a lot of money. People write 1-star Yelp reviews for $10 sandwiches.
I know. Part of me, I don't know their upbringing, and I don't know their background. I don't know if I grew up, my dad worked at Granite City Steel, and I would listen to him fighting on the phone with insurance companies all the time.
That's awful.
I grew up listening to that. So to me, it just seemed like kind of normal. And he had amazing benefits. Amazing, the best. But you had to jump through some hoops to get everything paid, unfortunately. So I guess I grew up with that, and so I don't take no for an answer. It's like you have to prove no.
It's a special skill set to do that. Kim does it. I don't do it. I have zero patience.
My ex-husband's like, I'm going to put my ex-wife on the phone. You don't want to talk to her.
Yeah, no, and it's sad because it shouldn't be. It should be like, look, okay, I have coverage. I paid for the coverage. This is a deal. A car hit me. I have a broken bone. I need this fixed. What do you mean I'm denied? Yeah.
Whereas I'll go to page 325 and highlight a section and send it to the underwriter or the claims adjuster and be like, you have to reverse this decision now, or I'm taking this to your manager and I'm taking it to the news and I'm taking it to everybody.
Yeah, see, that just sounds like a lot of hourly wage.
Right. Yeah.
All right, now that I think we've solved... No, we haven't solved any problems, have we? No. Just kind of brought it up. I appreciate you doing this, though.
No problem. But I do think Luigi is just an entitled kid who he might have read some good books. He might be brilliant, but he isn't the hero that we want him to be.
I think he's going to have an impact that we never thought he would, though. If you read the tea leaves, Remember that day when Trump came down that golden escalator and everybody thought it was just going to be, it's just going to it's going to wake people up a little bit. He's not a politician. Well, things have changed. I think every now and then, Michael Brown, good, bad, and different, that one's crazy to me, but certain things happen. And to a degree, you said it, look, if he didn't look the way he did, because he's a good-looking kid, he's ripped, the whole 9 yards. Look, Hollywood loves that shit.
Especially
and you know who consumes Hollywood? Middle America.
Right.
Everybody on their TikTok feed. This kid is going to be a star for a long, long time for, arguably the worst reason imaginable, murder. But in the long run, a lot of people, in my opinion, will forget the fact that he killed somebody and that he put this on the front page. And I think that's just how Americans operate, because there's a very, very small group of Americans that have never had the healthcare industry affect them in a negative way.
True. However, perhaps if they just better understood their system or their plan and their program, then they might not feel the same way.
Yeah, we're talking about the same people that
don't open their mail.
Don't open their mail, and they claim to be petroleum experts, but don't know that we're producing more now than ever. The list goes on.
Right.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think in summary, Americans are not doing the work. Is that what we're saying?
Correct. We are lazy and fat. We like Ozempic drugs and... Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we've solved all those problems, Rachel, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. And if you're listening, if you need insurance over on the east side, are you in Missouri too, right?
I am. I'm in both states. Auto, home, life, commercial, you name it. We do it all. ALI insurance. And I'm in Maryville.
There you go. Mobile. Thank you.
Thank you.